Welcome to the Innovation Race podcast, where we meet fascinating inventors, innovators, politicians, and leaders who share the view that what's best for our country is to protect patents and keep innovation in America. Now, here's your host, Jenny Beth Martin.
Luke Livingston, the director of our film Innovation Race, is a longtime friend and a colleague. He and his wife, Joanne, operate a production company, Ground Floor Video, and have made several feature-length films exploring issues important to the conservative movement. Luke is usually on the other side of the camera lens from me, but today I'd like to switch it up a bit so he can join our podcast to share some of the behind-the-scenes moments in the making of Innovation Race. Innovation Race is available to watch on salemnow.com. So please visit salemnow.com and share the movie with your friends so all Americans can learn about how important innovation is to our economy and our national security. And now here's my interview with Innovation Race film director Luke Livingston. Luke, it's so good to be with you doing this podcast.
Well, it's exciting. It's great to be talking about the film and be here with you.
Normally, you're on the other side of the camera.
That's right. I'm very uncomfortable sitting here in front of the lens.
Well, I want you to know you're doing a great job, and every tip that I can give you, I learned from you. So,
well, yeah, that's great.
So this was our sixth documentary that we've done on different topics, correct?
Exactly. This is I think the sixth feature-length documentary that I've produced or directed, and this is the second we've done on the topic of the patent system and innovation and invention.
And when we were doing this, we hit some really unique challenges, which many people in the last 3 years have had to overcome. And that is, we started planning for this documentary, and then COVID happened. And we kind of had to put a lot on pause because you and I made the decision we did not want a Zoom documentary, that we wanted a documentary where we were face to face with people and could have different creative looks to it. And also, I think that we get better interviews when you have more face to face communication. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. And we actually employ a new technology called iDirect, which allows you to look right at the person while you're interviewing them. So what happens is that it has them looking straight into the lens, but what they see in lieu of the lens is your face through a series of mirrors. And it's a popular technique over the recent year, but it's great. It's a way to really involve the interviewer with the audience. I mean, they kind of break down the whole mirror looking at my face over the lens thing, but then people relax and they're just talking to you, just like we are now. And they're just conveying their concern about the topic and everything directly into the lens. It's pretty interesting. As far as, it's like Skype. It's like doing it on Skype and Zoom, but it's more intimate. The photography's better. It looks better.
Right.
And Joanne, my wife who produced, we wanted to make sure that, we were able to, get that intimate feel with the interviews. So, shooting during COVID was a problem, but fortunately she did a great job of booking guests and working around all that. And we were able to capture all these great interviews with hard to get folks, senators, congressmen,
right,
experts, people in the field.
And when we were doing this documentary, we did Invalidated, and we learned about the patent process and what inventors go through and some of the challenges that they face. But in the making of this documentary, you and I learned a lot more about the patent system, but about challenges that America faces if we don't keep up with China.
Exactly. Invalidated was the story of Josh Malone. It was an inventor who had been infringed upon by a large corporation. His story is egregious. It's just amazing what he went through to save his invention. And it's kind of his personal journey. And it's a great way to tell the story, an academic, kind of wonky, problem nobody thinks about. Boy, inventors getting ripped off, having their ideas stolen from big corporations. What, I thought a patent was more secure, more certain. So the audience kind of gets teased on that. And we never were able to really follow Josh any further in his journey, which it continued on into quite an amazing victory for him. But we thought, wow, what's the international implications of this? And we explored that for about 10 minutes in Invalidated. And we said, wow, okay, that seemed to be a really interesting topic. So let's take that and expand on that and really understand what the political, national security, and economic impact is when we have harms to our patent system, our ability to innovate and compete with the world. What does that mean to us if our patent system is weak and inventors are not incentivized?
What were some of the things that you thought that you learned that were the most interesting throughout the process?
That a chicken coop can be moved around with a flux capacitor.
And he's going to be marketing that, and it's actually going to be a product that's available for hobby people who have like backyard chicken coops.
Yeah, and when Representative Massey was on this podcast, he complained, well, the one we had was like a Model T version of his coop, chicken coop, and now he's got something that's real sleek. It looks like actually like a Roomba, it goes around on the lawn. If people don't understand, it's a chicken coop that moves and all that is a part of the movie. But the biggest thing I learned is it's a nonpartisan issue, that Congress is united around the idea of innovation and American leadership and innovation. They really are. I mean, who wouldn't be, right?
Right. It
goes to the core of our Constitution, property rights, the rule of law, all the things that made our country great, capitalism, all that. So it's something they all rally around. And there's some disagreement about what we do, but nobody likes large corporations, pulling the ladder up on the little guy. Nobody likes that. I mean,
right.
America was built on disruption. The idea that you can go out and build a chicken coop or make some invention that is so unique that you can get a patent on it because no one else thought about it, and you should be able to protect that intellectual property and then market it and sell it and make money and raise your station in life. Put your kids through school,
right.
Or license it. Sell it to somebody who has the means of production to make your invention.
Right.
And it's the core of who we are as Americans. So. Congress sees that, they understand that, and there's a lot of corruptive influences, right? That they're whispering over their shoulder. Look, you got to make it easier for us to compete worldwide. We're competing at a higher level than all these inventors and small guys. You got to give us run of the board,
right?
And that's a mistake,
right? It is a mistake. I found the bipartisan nature of the problem and the bipartisan willingness to solve the problem really quite inspiring. And it's one of the things that I found most interesting as we rolled out Invalidated before Innovation Race. We were showing the film in different places around the country, including in California, where we were showing it to a much more liberal audience, and they were very angry that we were part of the people who produced this film. But then afterwards, they were like, "Oh, the film is really good, and maybe you aren't as bad as I thought you were." But this problem, it isn't a Republican problem or a Democrat problem. It's an America problem, and we've got to be able to solve it, because the threats that our country faces from China, if we are not the leading innovators in the world, and if we're not protecting our own innovators, it's quite harmful. It could be quite harmful.
It is. I mean, the film's coming out at a great time. We started this process almost 2 years ago, right? The film
even three,
with Invalidated even earlier than that, obviously 17. But you're kind of waiting to get the film out and raise the funds to market it and get it out there in front of a lot of people, and seems like the more we've waited, it's been a blessing, because it's kind of put it in the spotlight when this topic's hot. I mean, everybody's talking about China now. Everyone's worried about China as a competitor, beating us, or going to war with Taiwan and all these things like that. And we're starting to see more and more articles. I think the movie has also spawned a discussion about these things within the intellectual property rights community, right?
Right.
There's a lot of heated
and the national security community as well.
Yeah, right, exactly. People are looking, going, well, what is this? What does losing innovation to China mean? I'm starting to see more news articles about that and more widely distributed news outlets. So I'm excited about that. And I hope the movie hits at a time now, while it's available online through Salem Now, that more people can watch it and get an idea and be educated on this, because it's one of those topics, Jenny Beth, this, that people watch it and go, "Oh, I didn't know that. That's so important. Oh, I got to share this with other people." It's like, this is the most important thing I didn't know about. And a good documentary, I think, does that, because it takes a novel topic and exposes it to light, and people go, "Wow, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize about the plastic in the water," or whatever. Those types of things that people are concerned about. So I'm excited about that. I really think it's the timing's right. Sometimes with these documentaries, you come out on it's novel and you're ahead of the topic,
right.
and it's a political topic maybe, and
right.
you're ahead of the game, and it just doesn't land at the right time. And
that kind of happened with with the border documentary that we
right.
did.
Right.
Border states of America. That's now a phrase that people use. Well, we coined.
I know.
We have a whole documentary
right.
on it.
Yeah.
But it took. That was in 2014, and now in 2023, people are saying my state's a border state. My county's a border county.
Everybody's a border county and border state. And it's funny because you could literally take about 20 minutes of that film, like people at the White House press podium and things, comments that we had,
right,
that were timely, swap them out with today, and nothing's changed.
Right. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It's really frustrating. In fact, it's even gotten worse. So sometimes it's frustrating as a documentary filmmaker to expose topics and be so passionate about it and see that maybe things aren't moving in a direction that you hope the film would move things.
Right. And maybe we were a little bit ahead of the time when we were doing the border documentary. But on this one, it seems that a lot of what we are discussing is hitting as the news is hitting about it.
Exactly.
I think that one of the most interesting things I've heard with people who've watched the documentary, inventors have been like, oh, I didn't think about the national security implications with the problems that I experienced with my own patent. Mm-hmm. And then people in the national security realm have said, wow, I never even considered that patents might be a problem or a way to solve some of the problems we are facing from a national security threat from China. And I think that it's really interesting that these two very intellectual communities are, and they're experts within their own area. We've helped bring them together and get both sides to look at the problem that they face differently.
Well, one of the big inspirations for me making the film was a paper. It's a legal paper. It was written by some of the world's leading intellectual property rights scholars and experts. It's called Innovation Warfare, and it's a kind of a legal paper, but it's a policy paper. Kind of an idea on how to protect our intellectual property infrastructure here in the United States from being damaged by China or other countries. Right. And the core premise of the paper is that innovation drives national security and economic competitiveness. So if you're not innovative, then you're not going to have national security and compete economically.
Right.
Patents secure those strengths here. So we really have to do that. And China right now is kind of eating our lunch because we've allowed them to take our manufacturing, right, and kind of win the manufacturing war. And in the process, we've transferred all this technology to them, right, so they could do that. And now they're saying, well, we're really good at manufacturing this stuff, and we're smart enough now to start inventing and take incentivizing people here in China to invent, and build the technology. So it used to be that we design here, not used to be, we still do. We design here and manufacture there, but they want to basically get in control of the design side of the equation, which is not good for us. We need to bring back manufacturing and hold design here.
Yes. I think that that's very, very important for a multitude of reasons, many of which we go through in the documentary. When we look at the solutions, one of the things, let me step back, maybe it's not so much solutions, but when the audience watches the film, one of the things you said just a few minutes ago was that people watch it and go, wow, and this is the most important thing I didn't even know I didn't know. I think that it's fascinating to watch the audience see the film, and afterwards, when we've been showing the film around the country, so many people want to stay and they want to talk about what they just heard and learned and find ways to solve the problem. What can we do to make a difference with it?
You remember we showed Invalidated at a conference out west.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And it was about 40, 50 people. It was kind of a preview.
Right.
And Tom Massey was there and someone else. I can't remember who else. But, I mean, there was a huge, there was almost a throwdown in the aisle. People were really emotionally moved by this topic.
Right.
And I think, I recall in Invalidated, we're doing the research, the inventors were out burning patents in front of the patent office in protest. I said, what the heck is this? They're inventors? I thought they were little, old men at a bench, working on a new idea. And, no, they're out protesting.
Like Benjamin Franklin or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're burning their patents in protest in front of the patent office. Their patents, the thing that was part of who they are, the soul of who they are.
Right.
They're inspired by God to make this unique thing, and they're burning it because they find that the patents have weakened to the point where they're not any valuable to them anymore. And I thought, wow, that's really something. And people told me, oh, we can't put that in Invalidated. That wasn't you, but I mean, some people recommend, oh, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't put them burning the patents. But we did, and it because it's honest, and it's what the
right.
pain and suffering these inventors were going through. I think we conveyed that in the film. So that emotion around the topic is visceral. I mean, it really is, because like I said, it goes to the core of who we are as Americans.
And one of the things we've found from these inventors is that they actually are activists as well. You saw that as they were burning the patents, and they are trying to get the laws changed.
And that surprises people. They go, what are these guys, these inventors are walking the halls of Congress? Shouldn't they be home inventing the next gadget? You know, no, they're actually out lobbying for change. So if it gets to the point where they're doing that and activism is moving into that area, then I think we've got a problem. And I think Congress is looking at that this session. I really hope they do. I hope they do what they can to make patents more certain. That's really what they have to do. It used to be you could get a patent, and you know, it was like a shield. I mean, $1 billion couldn't beat it back. Right. But now they can, and it's more. There's more discretion. It's up in some tribunals and things that people didn't.
It's not even necessarily first to invent right now, which is a problem.
Right.
That blows my mind.
The law that changed things back in 2011 was really kind of lobbied by big tech to protect their market position and make it more difficult for disruptors to come up and disrupt them. They were once disruptors.
Now they pulled the ladder out.
Exactly. And you kind of explain that to people, and they go, oh, I get it. Okay, so it's basically the Goliath against David, you know. Right. And people like that story too. And that draws a lot of emotion as well, right?
Right. In the film, speaking of first to invent, in the film we have inventors and we have facts, but we also have this fictionalized story going on. How did you decide to do that and talk about that part of the film a little?
Invalidated was about Josh Malone. It was a very personal story. It was his hero's journey to save his invention for his family and all the crap he ran into in Washington, D.C. and the patent office. And I thought, well, how do we're talking about this equation of economic competitiveness and all that and national security. How do we tell that story with some emotion? We don't have a person suffering in the same way that Josh did. It's hard to find when you're doing a documentary, COVID and all that. So I said, well, maybe we can script some things. There's a film out about big tech's attention extraction business model.
Yes.
It's called The Social Dilemma.
Right.
It ran at the top of COVID on Netflix, a great film. And they have it's a movie within a documentary. It's several scenes of a family and young people and how they're harmed by some social media, business model. And I thought, wow, I want to do something like that. Maybe we can do that. Maybe we can create a character in the movie that helps share some of these harms to the audience in an emotional way, right? And that I think we did that successfully. It's kind of a surprise. You go, well, what's this? It's like there's a documentary, and then it's a little story, and then you're back to the documentary. But after a few moments, I think the audience gets it, and they liked it. I was like, I'm glad they liked it.
Right.
Because it's a simple story. It's kind of like almost like a commercial, really. But it tells the story in a way that I think kids understand well too. I showed it to some students at a university, Kennesaw State. And everybody liked that. I asked them about that in a kind of little focus meeting afterwards, focus group meeting. And they said, yeah, they really liked the idea that the girl, what she went through, it really kind of gave them an idea of, what it feels like to have something stolen from you, and, it kind of propels you through the movie, which is good.
In that portion of the documentary, we edited that. We changed the way that it played out dramatically.
Right, because the way that it weaves in and out of the discussion by all the experts and politicians and inventors, it provides a dramatic recall to the points we're making, or payoff. And we were sitting down. You and I were sitting down with Joanne, and we're kind of figuring how do we weave that together in the ending to add more climactic ending, create a more climactic ending to the film. And I think we did a good job.
I think we did.
You had a good suggestion there. We popped in a couple spots, but I think that people get it. They like the ending of the film.
Right. And Joanne cannot be here today, but we would not have been able to do the film without her. She was instrumental in it. She wasn't just lining the people up for the interview. She was doing the background research on them. She knew every single word that they said, so that as we were trying to edit and figure out what points we wanted to make in, she knew who said it and when they said it, and where we could put that into the film. She did a lot of the background research to make sure it was correct.
I mean, Joanne's a producer, so the producer's responsibility for, booking guests. She helped us locate the location for the science fair scenes. Basically the strength in Joanne's ability is to relate with people and call call senator's office and congressmen and their staff and get them coordinated and stay on them and build personal relationships with people. It's really important for producers to do that. I'm kind of a bull in the china shop director, right? But she's knows how to deal with people and apologize for me. So, she's really good at that. So the strength of the film in many ways are the guests we have in it. And that was all Joanne.
I really appreciate what she contributed to it. And she was there when we first decided to do Invalidated. And when I heard of this problem that was going on with the patents, I just thought, we have to we have to turn this into a documentary. It was way too complex of a topic. I was doing an interview, a podcast with Thomas Massey, and I said, this is way too complicated. I know what I need. I need Luke and Joanne. We need to make a documentary. And she's helped us with both of these on topics that are very, very esoteric, turning them into captivating topics.
Yeah. And, when the story all comes down to people, right? The story is if you tie it to a person or an individual, it's a great way to go. So that's always what we try and do. I think, man, we started out on Invalidated. I didn't know anything about the patent system. I knew nothing about the patent system, when we started. So we start calling people and experts and trying to figure out what it is. And wow, this gets really complicated. You're kind of in the rabbit hole. Wow, there's a whole, bar association just on this, and lawyers and attorneys, and it's all really complicated. And oh my goodness, it's way up here in the sky somewhere. And we said, no, we have to bring it down, because really, when they wrote the Constitution, they put it, in Article 1, Section 8, right? Right. And, that Congress is charged with protecting the rights of writers and inventors. Figure out a system to do this, the Founding Fathers said. So it's really quite simple. The concept is quite simple. But like anything, a lot of money's involved now. We're billions and billions of dollars. We're a giant nation, and whole industries are built on it. So it's going to be a tough fight for the inventors.
It is. And you know what, Luke, it isn't just that whole industries are built on this. Our whole country is built on it. You rattled that off. It's in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. I didn't even pay attention to how novel that was to be in a constitution until I did that podcast with Thomas Massey. It's part of the reason why I thought, oh my goodness, I have to shout this from the mountaintops and let people understand what it is. But prior to our Constitution, the king had owned the intellectual rights. So if you invented something, it belonged to the king. And in America, they said, no, that's not how we're going to do it. If you invent something, if you think of something brand new no one else has thought of, it belongs to you. And if you share that with the whole world, we'll let you have the exclusive right to it for a fixed period of time. That was a brand new concept. And we have entire industries built on it. And sadly, our whole country is built on it.
And what we found out is, over these films, and sadly, it's moving back to that privilege system.
It is.
If we allow large corporations to capture our regulatory bodies, right, or create tribunals within our regulatory bodies, right, that add more discretion to the value of a patent, and there's more influence from them to kind of control the game board, I like to say, then you kind of lose that original idea, and it gets diluted. And in fact, that's what Thomas Massey said: the patent system has been diluted. Right. But we have Senator Coons in there. He's a Democrat from Delaware. You've got a firebrand conservative and Thomas Massey. And they're side to side. Right. One delivers first part of the other guy finishes the sentence, that type of thing. So they're in tune on this. I can't wait to see what Congress is going to do this year to fix this problem. And, I don't see much from big tech companies and large corporations I don't hear them saying anything about this.
Right.
Other than we need to keep it the way it is because we like to be able to control the game board, right? Right. We like to have more control over patents and we want to keep the little guy down. I mean, the corporations should, if they're so focused on ESG, right, then they should be focused on, the American dream. Well,
if they were focused on the American dream, they would not be focused on ESG. So
right, yeah.
That's part of the problem, right?
Because it's there's no equity in patents. There's no equity. It's a meritocracy. It's who has a good idea. Right. I have this unique idea. It's mine. And through my merit, I'm going to raise my station in life by licensing it or selling it or making it or whatever. And that's not equity. The government can't say, we're going to mandate a certain number of original ideas this year. Right. That's like Russia.
Right. Well, and it just doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work at all. Going back just a little bit, you and I have known each other for many, many years now, and you were part of this Tea Party movement from the very, very beginning. We did the first Atlanta Tea Party in February of 2009, and right after that, we began planning the Tea Party for Tax Day in 2009. And I reached out to you and I said, I think we need video at this, and I think we need video, like we need jumbotrons. I don't know anything about jumbotrons. And also, I think we need to be documenting what we're doing. And you've been at every single major event that the Tea Party's been a part of for the entire length of the Tea Party, except for maybe that very first rainy day in Atlanta in February, because I realized we have to make sure that we're documenting it. And I think because we did that, we wound up, in the relationship you and I have, we've been able to explore some amazing topics in the documentaries we've done.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, been to some fantastic places. I mean, amazing journeys and exploring topics that were, top of the news, things like that early on. Yeah, it was. You live down the street, right? So
yes.
I did video. He said, come on over. So we did that first Tea Party event in Tax Day of 2009.
Right.
And at that point, I thought I was just coming down to videotapes and stuff and do some videos for the screens. And, Hannity was there. And all of a sudden, a zillion people show up. And I go, where's the news?
Right.
I came out of television news. I used to work at ABC affiliate. And I said, where's the news on this? This is huge. So we've got to capture this movement. So I just started on my own. I was doing corporate videos in Atlanta for Chick-fil-A and AT&T and Home Depot and stuff.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm going to take some time to document and go capture some of these events that are happening throughout the summer of 2009. And we made a movie about it. And you were a focus of that because we talk about activists leading the way. And, it was fun. Like I said, we get back to the emotional journey of somebody. And, it's quite a hero's journey. I mean, you're in your ordinary world and all of a sudden, boom, you're thrown into an extraordinary world and facing dragons and, that type of thing. Bigger things, bigger than you ever thought. And I think it's fun to tell those stories. We, it ended up on the mall, 12th of September of 2009 with 1 million people there. And again, the news didn't show up.
Yeah, not at all. It was crazy, just the silence that we experienced. A lot of the silence that we experience now today, you and I probably aren't even fazed by it because we're just sort of used to, that's the way the mainstream media handles things. One of the documentaries we did, I think, prepared us for the challenges that we faced with COVID, and that was the documentary we did about Obamacare. It wasn't just a documentary about Obamacare, but it was this philosophical difference in government control of healthcare versus individual control of healthcare. And when COVID and the lockdowns began, we really were facing that. Is it a government-controlled decision when it comes to people's healthcare, or is it individual control? Do we have healthcare freedom, or is it government control? And because of the philosophical aspect in that Obamacare documentary that we did, the Determinators, who determines the healthcare, I think it prepared me so that I could go, wait, what I'm seeing happen around the country right now related to COVID and a healthcare issue, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. This goes against what we were, this goes against our values. It's what we were fighting against when we were fighting against Obamacare. It's just a different twist to government control of our lives.
We adapted that movie. Actually, Pritchett Cotton directed that one, and it was adapted after Dr. C.L. Gray's book. And he basically boils the healthcare argument down to philosophical difference between Plato and Hippocrates, right? The state versus the individual. And it was a great framework to tell the story of government control versus, having decisions over your own healthcare. And I think we're realizing that today now that, healthcare is less in our control than it used to be.
Much less.
Yeah.
And so we did the Tea Party movie. We did the healthcare movie. You also did a documentary with about
Black conservatives,
right?
Runaway Slave, yeah. Runaway Slave was a look at the early Black conservatives: Herman Cain, Allen West. We sat down with Thomas Sowell. He's not really an early young guy. We sat down with congressmen, leaders, young activists, old activists. But it was a look at the Black conservatives and their opinion of how Democrat policies have harmed the Black Americans, right? By fostering dependency on government.
Right.
That's it. So now everything's out. Uncle Tom and everybody's doing all the movies. So it was another, early film. But that was an award winner and big feature length film. It was my first film that I got into theaters and got traditional distribution with.
Right.
Innovation Race is the next one where we raised enough money to get, a legit movie out there, go to the movie theater and watch it and all that. It's a lot of fun.
And then Freedom Works sponsored that one, not Tea Party Patriots, but Freedom Works sponsored it, and C.L. Bryant was in it. So you had C.L. Gray in one and C.L. Bryant in another.
Again, Pritchett Cotton directed that. I produced it. So Pritchett should also be here, but he's a colleague of mine that does great work, and we work together really well on that, along with Joanne and you and everybody else.
Right. When we video and the importance of video really has evolved a lot in the last 15, 20 years or so, especially as YouTube has come about and Instagram and the videos that people can just take on their phones. What have you seen as somebody who's been in the film industry and in the news industry for so long? And what do you think about it? Because you understood early in your career this is an important way to document things and to get the word out. What do you think about the changes you've seen?
What's really changed? I mean, I've had my business for a long time, and I've been over the transfer from like standard definition to high definition. But I think it's really the ability to capture video. Back when we were doing the Tea Party movie and all that, we didn't have iPhones that really could capture video back then, right? Back in 09, 08, 09, 10. You had zip phones. You had those devices that could record like small movies that were like the size of cell phones. But now everybody has a cell phone. Right. So when we were on the mall in 09 at the big rally, not many people had cameras. You had to have a broadcast camera, one that goes on your shoulder, or a decent camcorder that was high quality. Not everybody had that. So if you would capture like in Runaway Slave, we captured this incredible street corner showdown between liberal and conservative Black Americans. Face to face, having this huge debate, and people are crowding around. We had the only cameras there. Nobody had like flip phones and stuff. Right. So the content was much more valuable. Now everybody's got a camera. They're flipping their camera out to record a fight rather than help people stop fighting. It's ridiculous. But I think that's one of the biggest changes. I was watching a Home and Garden show, and the host is off recording themselves on a selfie as a segment of the build out of the house or something. I'm going, well, they didn't even bring cameras in. They just had the host record their own thing. Right. So it's the ease of recording has really changed. I think that the duration of videos is being reduced. Instagram is just like thumbing through a magazine. Right. Really fast. Right. And I think the challenge is for these long documentaries is really capture people early on and bring them into the story right away, so they're willing to sit there and watch it for 110 minutes or an hour. Right. So that's changed. I think those are the major changes I can think of.
Very good. Well, is there anything else that you want to let people know that you thought was so important about the documentary that maybe I did not ask you today about Innovation Race?
I think when it comes to that question, Innovation Race, it's really getting people involved. How do we get, what are we going to do to involve people in making that change? So I would just encourage people to go to innovationracemovie.com, and get involved and find out what the story is. Watch the film. If you watch the film, you'll be up to speed on a lot of the problems with our patent system and intellectual property rights in this country, because the general public just needs to be informed. It's a simple concept, really. Who controls your idea on your property? Who controls your ideas on your property? So people watch the movie, they'll get up to speed, and it's enjoyable. They'll enjoy watching it. And I think at that point, the activists out there will have, people behind them, and they'll feel supported.
That's right. And then as this new Congress now is in session, hopefully we can see legislation that makes a difference on the issue. And as we find the legislation being introduced and going through committees, and then we'll make sure that we're updating innovationracemovie.com for calls to action so people can stay involved and actually fix the problem rather than just knowing that a problem exists.
Exactly.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for interviewing with me today. I know it's weird for you to be on the other side of the camera, but I'm so glad that you did this. I think it's important for people to know the man who directed the film and the process that went into making the documentary. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the audience for listening. You can now see Innovation Race on Salem Now, so be sure to go check it out on Salem Now. And thank you for joining the Innovation Race podcast.
The Innovation Race podcast is hosted by Jenny Beth Martin and produced by Kevin Mooneyhan, Lori Heiselman, and Andy Peterson. Luke Livingston directs the video podcast. Innovation Race podcast is a production of Tea Party Patriots Action. For more information, visit teapartypatriots.org. That's teapartypatriots.org.